Millipede! It's not just an irritating insect anymore. It's a terrific video game, and has been since 1982 when it was released to the arcades as the sequel to Centipede. This is the 1988 version for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Ironically, the NES is not the first game console that comes to mind when I think of awesome arcade classics from the 80s. Yet there's so many of them that were released on the NES. Games like Millipede, Spy Hunter, and Xevious all have NES versions, and I bought all three of them for less than $10 this past weekend. And that's a friggin' bargain and a half. Seriously, Millipede is worth $10 alone. Because this game is amazing. It's like Centipede, plus with a bit of the ultra awesome. The original arcade machine had a trackball and was obviously smoother than this NES version. It irritates me that the game is not played full screen. Sadly, it's cropped with the score off to the right. But those are minor complaints because the gameplay is intact, it's easy to see what's going on, and this is a really nice version of Millipede. There's two difficulty settings, and what else can you say about Millipede? It's like Centipede, except even better because it's more frantic. And generally improved. At times it feels like you're shooting everything except the Millipede because there's so many more enemies on screen that score points. Compared to some of the other things out there, the Millipede is fairly easy to avoid. Like Centipede, Millipede is one of these games that doesn't have to look good to be good. And while this version on the NES looks just fine, Millipede was one of my favorite games on the Atari 2600, and that version was just blocks. But the gameplay was awesome, and that's why I like Millipede. And it's got that perfect blend of arcade risk versus reward scoring. The game is easy to pick up and play, but difficult to master. In fact, I thought my game here was a goner. I made numerous mistakes and was down to no lives left, but then just kept hanging on. Because as the game progresses, it gets more difficult, it throws more enemies at you, and you score more points, which makes it easier to get extra ships. It's a really fun game, and while Centipede is better known, both Millipede and Centipede are from Atari. This version on the Nintendo was published by HAL America Incorporated, and they did a nice job. I wish they would have made it full screen, and the packaging design sucks, but overall the game is Millipede. Obviously the gameplay would be better with a trackball. I'm playing this with the NES gamepad, and it works just fine. It's not that bad. Trackball would be better, but when trackball is not an option, you make an unhappy face and just play with the D-pad. And for a whopping $2 or $3, who can argue? If you've never played Millipede, you should. It's available these days on numerous game consoles, and while not as widespread as Centipede, I think Millipede is actually a better game. Every time I hear that sound, I think I'm playing Robotron, and I start to get really nervous. Like there's gonna be a wave of brains and tanks attacking me. There's lots of excellent arcade classics on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Most of them are super duper dirt cheap these days. So remember to visit your local game store with $20 in your pocket and walk out with a pile of arcade games for the NES that's simply priceless.